Hi everybody, I am Nu-Trix, and today we're going to talk about a new format of my videos. I'll call it Nu-Trix News. January 23, guess why? I'm looking into different ways to do the content on my YouTube channel, and one of them is to basically talk about many things that I see interesting, but it would be too short to do a whole video about them. So it's kind of a monthly news bulletin, if you want, about anything that is synth related or electronic music related. I could be just talking about what I feel about something, and that's it. So today I'm going to have 3 topics. And tell me if you like this format. Put your comments below. Tell me about content you would like me to talk about or, just chat about. If you feel this format would be interesting in a live stream, I could also look into maybe doing that. I'm not against it. It's just I have to figure out when is a good moment to do it so that a lot of people can be part of the stream. So it's kind of another question, but I'm open to that because 3 topics I have today to talk about. The first one is where I'm going with this YouTube channel this year. So that's going to be part of that right away. Second one, I want to talk about the Roland piano concept that came out for their 50th anniversary. It's just bizarre, interesting, curious, and full of promises. And that's something I want to talk about. It's really interesting. Bizarre, but interesting. And the third one, I want to just talk about SAGA Synth for the iOS from AudioKit. We're just going to go through these 3 today. In the year 2022, I didn't have the time to fully do what I planned to do. Kind of normal. I had a huge renovation project on the house that took us totally at least 6 months to do. Even if I didn't do most of the job, I had to move stuff so that the worker could do the job. So basically, it was like moving between rooms for months and months and months. And still, when they left, I had to do the finishing, the internal finish. So I'm going to go back into deeper content than last year. So that's going to come back, especially on the gear that I have, because it's now part of the studio. I have the Mini Freak now. I have the MC707 as a full-time piece in my studio. And I just received the Arturia KeyStep 37. So these are the devices I will use more and more. So I'm going to have more and more tips to show and express about that. Still, I'm using the iPad as my go-to device for creation. So it's going to be more and more about how to integrate the iPad into a DAW system or a DAW-less system, and how to not use it as a separate device, but use it part of it. And everything that I have now appears on USB also. So if I plug my iPad into the same connector, I would see my hardware mixer, all the inputs, and I would see all of my hardware synthesizers, part of it. So that's also another part that is really interesting to think about. So I'm going to talk about these concepts. Again, you write down in the comments what you're looking for, which part is interesting or more interesting. So I would start with this section. Also, I have been a teacher for more than 15, 17. I started counting. I was for 25 years in a sound recording school, in music production school. So I'm thinking of making created full-fledged course, like 12 hours of course content on synthesis, how to make your own sound. And not just like, what is this doing, but how do you do a bass? How do you do this and creating that? So I'm kind of looking into how I would do it and where I would offer that and what part would be free, what part would be paid. So again, if you find this interesting, write your comments about it, how you would, and if you're ready to pay for some part of that, how much would that be? So there's different concept. I'm trying to figure out how to do this, because keep in mind that I do this on top of my full-time job and being a parent. So it's just like I do this. So I'm going to figure out what's the most valued by people, and I'll try to do that. So it's going to be also useful for you. And I have been working on songs, but I never finished them in the last almost 4 years. So one of my goals this year is to finish at least an EP of 4 to 6 songs. I've got many of them almost done, but this year my resolution is to finish them and publish them. So I would go through the whole process of mixing and finishing the production and going through the mindset of how I do these choices. So not directly linked to a tool per se, but more about the mindset behind using them and making the decisions that I live with, because that's going to be the final project that I want to release. So I might do these type of videos. If you find it interesting, again, put the comments below, write down if these topics interest you and the angle you're looking for, what type of information, because I can talk about production, but I could talk about a part that you don't really care or it's not useful. So anything that you find, the angle you find useful, but you try to get out of a video when you look at it. So write down below and I'll try to angle my content so it answers to these questions. So I'm really going to aim for that. So that's going to be basically what's coming out. Again, I'm going to talk about software for music on your computer, on your iPad, and on hardware. That's still going to be Nu-Trix 2023. But more in-depth stuff, I think, to help you maximize your use of your hardware and your software also, will mean that you'll spend more time using them and less time buying new stuff and just finish your songs, like the goal that I'm making for myself this year. It also means that I'm selling stuff. So I might do videos, and I saw other YouTubers saying, okay, I'm selling this, and I explain why, and they show the gear and they sell it. I could do that because I've got probably 4 pieces of hardware I'm going to sell this year. They're already disconnected, dispatched, and they're almost ready to, I'm going to take pictures and put them up for sales. So this is in a nutshell what to expect from the Nu-Trix Synth Guy channel in 2023. And again, this is always a work in progress, so I'm reacting to your suggestions and questions. I'm going to update my website also, so it's clear what you get there, because I know I've got a lot of stuff online. I've got more than 400 videos on YouTube, and sometimes people ask me about something, and I go, well, it's already done. I did that video 2 years ago, and this is the link to that. So I might reorganize teams or categories of video content on my website so that it fits more of a logic of I would say a course content or a related content. I'll try to do that on my website. Second topic, the Roland 50 years anniversary piano concept. It's just, I would say, curious. So this is pretty curious. Now, you might say, first of all, who's going to buy this? Nobody. It's not for sale. It's a proof of concept. When I look at what Roland do when they show off this type of work, I basically understand it like if you go look at the F1 race and the car that they have, nobody's going to buy a car like that. You cannot. But the technology they create to do these high-speed cars will exist later on in everyday cars also. It's bound to change the way they build stuff or they approach stuff or the option you find in different hardware devices. So I find that this is interesting, not just because it's the 50 years anniversary of Roland and it's a interesting, weird way of doing pianos. The research and development they do for this type of product will also cascade down to everyday other product. It's sure it's going to be happening like that at one point. It doesn't mean you'll have the same technology, but it will inspire other technology. It will put the foundation for other things. So I still am interested and curious about to see what they do with this. Now, first of all, the concept of these is they have to be very nice looking. They have to be organic type of piano. This one looks more like a jewel box, and it's all in wood. First of all, it's playing the best sound that they can have for a realistic piano. Of course, it's not a real piano. It's an electronic piano. It's a recreation of real piano. But now what they're trying to do is, first of all, it's an object that fits into a room, but also could be on a stage. The concept here is to be able to play and live the sound of a piano in the right space. So this is interesting because most people have the piano in their room, and you're basically going to going to be limited to the quality of the acoustic of the room you're in. So your house, basically. But the pianist that plays in the live hall does not have that sound. It has a reverb, it has a better sound, so, or a cathedral sound, whatever it is that you're playing in, you want to have that sound. So they push the concept to say, well, if I want to have a bigger space, acoustic space that I'm listening at, and I want to feel the reverb of the cathedral, I would like to have the option of having a bigger sound. So this is weird, but at the same time, very interesting and curious and fascinating, because they decided to go with drones. Now, cheap drones sounds really loud. I'm guessing they had better quality bearings and all that stuff to have the lowest possible noise of these drones. But the drones have speakers in them. So you have speakers in the piano itself, multiple ones to shoot in all different direction. And you have some in the drones themselves. So if you want to have a bigger room, the drones themselves, they move away from you and they generate a different sound. And when I have a smaller room, they come closer to you. So it's kind of bizarre and fun and curious at the same time. And they have their own technology to talk to the drones, because they're not using Bluetooth. It's too slow for the reaction, because they want the pianist to feel like it's a real piano in real time. So again, they invented their own technology of communication to have the lowest possible transmission. So again, this is useful for us for anything in the future. And I like the notion of having these speakers move. So of course, at one point, you'll have drones that have less of a noise in them. So you'll be able to have this. Imagine flying speakers in, maybe not at home because it's just, it's kind of weird, but in any type of event, in a museum, or any type of places where you want to create a surrounding environment where the speakers actually generate the sounds moving around you. If you're doing some type of group VR environment and the speaker moves as you, it just opens up a lot of concept. You go, okay, this could be used in events, So I find this really interesting and curious and fun at the same time. It has the touch screens, so instead of bringing your iPad or something like that, it is built in, and it's connected to the Roland cloud, and you can even install Zenbeats. So you could use this as your main, station to work and compose and record notes, and then this also connects to Bluetooth and MIDI to outside of the devices. So you could also have this as center of your studio. Again, it's not for sale. It's a concept product. It's to show off what technology they can invent and push it. I'm just curious. I really want to hear what it sounds like. How much of a noise the drones are making. Just put it there. Keep in mind, it's always curious to see what they come up with. Last but not least, SAGA 16 bits from AudioKit. AudioKit has been making a lot of cool synthesizers. They basically have a open frame of codes to do synthesizers. And there's a lot of them that came out over the years using AudioKit frames of codes. Now, the SAGA sound is basically taking from different SAGA synthesizers, the 16 bits. I might be a deception to you guys, but I'm older than the SAGA games. I learned to play video games using the first Pong. I played with the early days of the Atari, Commodore 64, the ColecoVision. So when SAGA came out, I was not playing games anymore. I was on computers playing with King Quest and Police Quest and Space Quest, just these old games that were not on consoles at that point. They were on PCs, the early days of PCs, and 16 degrees of gray or yellow or green, depending on your color of your computer. That was the time. So for me, listening to sounds from early days console, I don't get excited by it. It's just another synthesizer. So in the case of the SAGA sound chip, by default, I was like, yeah, okay. For me, it's not a big deal to have these sounds. But still, when playing with it, I found some stuff very interesting. Of course, having all these samples give you a lot of different options for the sounds, so it's pretty cool. Of course, you can have these very simple, and you've got just have a lot of these different sounds. What's interesting is when you start to work with it, you find that you have in the PCM section, that's where you have all these samples that they did. So there's a lot of samples here you can choose from. So if you approach it like any type of other synthesizer, you just pick the sound you want. I still like the fact that you've got these other type of sounds. You've got effects you can use. Now this one has none activated right now, and you've got a sequencer. And this is where this is really interesting, because what you can do with the sequencer here is you can actually have the sequencer and have it on only one oscillator, because you've got two oscillators, two PCM playing at the same time. And if you go to this one, you go PCM, you've got two sounds. You've got this sound here on layer 2, biohazard, and you have this one here on, but this one is actually using the sequencer, because the sequencer, you have these notes here playing. These notes are here, you see them playing. Okay. But the destination of the sequencer is layer 1 only. So only this one is played with the sequencer. And if you go back to PCM, you bring the second one up. This one is just a kind of a longer sound, biohazard. You get at the same time, you guys have a pad sound, plus you have the bass type of line playing with the sequencer, and they're linked to one note that I press. For me, this is something really interesting. You have the two different I like that little feature here, because this is actually pretty... Will you stop? Note off. All note off. That's it. So this is a new concept. Little Nu-Trix news, January 2023. If you like the concept, put your comments below. If you don't like it, put them below. If you want to write to me and ask me about new stuff I could talk about, where to contact me. It's actually on YouTube, in the content, in the pages. I look at everything every day. Might not answer it the day itself, but I'm going to put these on the side and keep it. I'm on Facebook, I am on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram. So one of these places you can actually, and if you don't know, you're in my YouTube channel right now. On the top right, you should have the list of my Instagram and Facebook and my other places, and my website also. So these are the places to write to me and say, hey, would you like to talk about this? And I'll see if I can, and if I have time to create something for that topic. That's it. Stay safe. Have a happy 2023. Make more music, and hey, finish your songs. Bye, everybody.